Call the meeting to order and let the record show that all members are present except Karen Galvin. If everyone's had a chance to look at the meeting's minutes from the April meeting, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, under old business this evening, we have Kevin Krulik giving us an update on the Stone Eater Bike Park.
Thank you, board members, directors. I appreciate the time to come talk to you again. Got just an update here I'll share with you just so you can see some of the numbers that we're talking about. I gave a long report to Board of Works and City Council about a week ago. I'm not going to go through that full report, so maybe some of you were there, maybe some of you have watched that online, but it is out there with a lot more detail. But I'm going to try to go over the high points here and give you an update. Some of these numbers are also updated since that meeting. So a couple things we want to talk about. I guess I want to clarify things for people that effectively, we're looking at this as really two projects. There's the work that we have to do to protect the landfill or protect the buried trash, and then there's the idea of the park that we're building. And so what you see there at the top is really sort of what we've done to date. Just to walk you through what we've done to date, and I'll walk you through what we are proposing to do, what has been approved so far. So far, in terms of the landfill cap fortification, we've got the ATC Environmental Consulting, that's been all the IDEM coordination, that's been the groundwater monitoring, $82,000. We've had the legal fees, obviously, and I'm trying to show you everything, so I normally don't show you the legal fees in terms of the cost of construction, because it's not construction related, but obviously we had that up front that we had to deal with between the city and the county. And then there was the tree clearing, that cost is on there as well. So we've spent about almost $310,000 to date, and those are primarily related to the landfill cap fortifications. And then what have we spent on the bike park to date? We've really only spent design fees at this time for about $50,000. So there's about $360,000 in there. What we're looking at now as a phase one project is, again, kind of thinking about it in two phases. We're working on the earth movement, and then we will be reseeding the landfill cap. And that's happening right now. The earthwork operations is ongoing, and there's a $518,000 contract that's in place there. And then we've got a seeding allowance that's $500,000. So we've got roughly $1 million of improvements to fortify the land cap. And what I would say is that the landfill was properly closed in 1987, but it wasn't really closed to today's standards. And some people say, well, would we really have to do anything since it was properly closed? It took me a little while. That was a question that came up a week ago. Our consultants dug into the state codes on this, and IDEM does have every right to ask someone, even on a closed landfill, to come back and remove trees, perfect drainage, remove any seeps or erosion that is happening, repair those areas. So we really do, it's not just that we feel that it's responsible to protect the groundwater supply in the area, but it is also something that IDEM could come back and tell us to do anyway. So working on that. And then the bike park improvements that we are proposed to do with phase one is the cross-country trail, the parking area, and then a maintenance facility, a barn, if you will, that would house any maintenance equipment and tools that would be needed at the park. So there's that $1 million for the landfill cap. There's the $874,000 for the bike park improvements. That phase one total is a little under $1.9 million. I put contingency in there to get $100,000 as we're not really under contract with most of the construction at this point, and we're at just shy of $2 million for our phase one total. Where's the project funding sources? So there's a list of the funding sources there. We've talked about a lot of these before. It's various different donations from engineering firms, from groups like the Hoosier Mountain Bike Association, Bicycle Garage, Indy. We've got the American Rescue Plan money. We've got the Ready Grant money. last week, the city council appropriated $750,000, but those appropriations have to go to the DLGF, the Department of Local Government Finance. And what they authorized us for was not the full 750, but 624,370. And really what, I'm trying to get to the bottom of what that is, but essentially what they're saying is this $930,000 balance that's in the sanitation fund that used to cover all of our trash pickup expenses, now the majority of those expenses are covered by residents by fees that are charged through the utility bill, collected and then used to reimburse the city on the cost of the trash contract. Well, for some reason, we're not fully collecting the full amount that's covering that cost. So DLGF would not allow us to spend that $930,000 balance down by $750. They wanted to limit it to $624. We may be able to get access to the rest of that money at some point in the future. Like I said, we're trying to figure out why we aren't collecting enough money to cover the cost of that contract, because the fees that we are collecting have surcharges in there. They have administrative fees that should be covering any administrative fees and any miscellaneous work that we have to do as associated with that trash contract. So trying to get to the bottom of that, but for right now we only have the 624, so that leads us to about 1.9 million in funding. Other funding sources, we have the CVB, the Convention and Visitors Bureau Award of $100,000, and then there's the earthwork donation from the New Cold Corporation for a little over $2 million. So altogether, if you total all those up, that's about $4 million. And so what does the project look to date? If you were looking at all in, we've got pre-construction expenses that I mentioned at the beginning of $360,000. We've got the mass earthwork import of $2 million in value there, and then we've got the 1.9 million, almost 2 million in construction for phase one. So that's where we get to, a little under, or a little over $4,350,000, which is a balance, or it's in excess of about $340,000 in a funding gap right there. Any questions on the funding before I get into the project status updates?
Phase one, typically that means there's a phase two. I heard a
Yeah.
$5 million price was the total, so if phase one is 430.
Yeah. Let me show you, I've got a map here I'll pull up. What is phase one? Phase one is, what you have there is the full site layout plan, and what I've done is highlighted in yellow the things that wouldn't be in phase one. So the phase one is the cross-country trail that goes through the middle of the site, and it is the parking lot. The only other things that would be on there are some access roads. So a lot of the skills trails that go around the perimeter into the steeper terrain of the park, the picnic areas and gathering spaces, those would be in future phases. The skills area where you would have some of the more intensive uses also are going into future areas. So right now, I think that what contractors that have reviewed the plans have said, there's about 3.2 million in construction that's on here. That's above and beyond, what we've done to date. So 3.2 million to finish it, and we're talking about just doing a $2 million phase one. So there's about $1.2 million that's left to fully build out the project. If, when, I don't know. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk and a lot of concern and going through the funding process. I'm not looking at I don't have a timeline or a schedule for when phase 2 or 3 or however many future phases there would be, when that would happen, or how we would fund that for now. So for right now, phase 1 is a cross-country trail and the parking area. That's all it's included.
So the funding sources you have listed for phase one, are those options possibly, any of them options for continued funding for phase two, or will that be the end of our funding source for
Well,
this?
I don't know. There will probably be we've been told by the state that there is money in the budget for a ready grant phase 2, So a second round of ready grants, that there could be an opportunity there. There could be other corporate partnerships that could possibly help to fund some of those areas. But for right now, really just been told to focus on phase one and stop there for now. And I think it's a pretty easy delineation between the end of that phase one and the future stuff. So I don't think the park looks unfinished if that's all that we do. But right now, that's all I'm authorized to, that's as far as I'm authorized to go.
I understand that. I just remember when we first were talking about it, and one of the parts that really was appealing in my mind was the picnic area and all that, to be a really nice asset for spectators, for family gatherings,
I agree.
whatever.
Yeah.
And so I want to be sure we keep that whole picture alive.
Yeah.
If we're going to do this, we need to.
I mean, the park is fully designed, so it's not that we couldn't go further at some point when funding was allowed. But for right now, we're going no farther than a $2 million next phase of construction.
So the $340,000 is a surplus that seed money for phase two possibly, unless there are overages that are unanticipated at this point.
No, I'm saying we are $339,000 short, but that's on the total project. So keep in mind, we've already spent $360. So we have the 1.9 million. We're a little shy on the $2 million number I threw out, but I've adjusted that number down with contingencies, looking at a $1.9 million project. So we have the funding we need to complete phase one. So that's a little deceiving that we don't have, because we've already appropriated those monies previously on some of those pre-construction expenses. Where we're at right now. There's a current status update. Earthwork donation commitment from New Cold is all complete. Hauling and stockpiling has started. We're probably at about 20,000 cubic yards that have been hauled in so far, of the 70 total hauled in and placed. Initial compaction testings have proven positive. We were a little nervous how you would compact soil on top of trash. We were advised by our landfill experts that would not be a problem, and surprisingly to me, it has not been a problem. So we're hitting 95% compaction on our Proctor tests, which is the goal. We've got a contract in place for Merit Contracting to move that 70,000 yards and place it, and not just in a stockpile form, but also to place it on site per our mass grading plans. NDOT approvals are complete. Status on the IDEM approval. So we received minor comments on the 6th of March. And literally as of a few minutes ago, I received all the updated drawings that we've been coordinating across multiple disciplines from our environmental engineers, our civil site engineers, and our bike park designer. So I think we've got a full set of drawings now. So we will resubmit those to IDEM this week. We've already walked through all the comments and our proposed responses to IDEM, so we feel confident that we've addressed all of their concerns. And we're already completely, been given the go-ahead to start placing the dirt on site by them as well. Because it's really, like I said, it's a separate project to maintain the cap in good working order, which is to making sure that it's draining. Ready Grant Administration, just getting ready to file our first quarterly report. That's due before the end of the month. And that's moving forward. We don't have any expenses to report at this time, but we will shortly. And then project delivery, as we've talked before, we're planning on delivering this with the construction manager method. But that, per your request, we're waiting on the IDEM approval before we would put that RFP out there. And again, just on a higher, rounder numbers, there's where the funding shakes out to get to that $2 million. Again, the sanitation fund has a balance of $930. $750 is what we had appropriated, but right now we are only going to be able to spend $625. Future, as I mentioned, the active bike skills area, some fencing, additional landscaping, picnic areas, shelters. Those are things that would come as a future. And then I already showed you the phase one plan, but I just wanted to share that with you again so you can see where we're concentrating our efforts to date. That's all I have.
follow-up from the last two times. The statistics you said you would get for local,
Yeah, I don't know if anyone
Interest?
had a chance to review those. I sent those statistics out to you via email yesterday.
I missed that.
They weren't as, there's updates on the national statistics and some national reports, and then I also sent you a copy of the Indiana Outdoor Recreation Plan. Unfortunately, they don't break out, the national study doesn't break out mountain biking for Indiana, and there is some breakout of data that is in that comprehensive plan, but it's not to the level of detail that I was hoping it would be. But that is all I've been able to find at this time. Let's see.
I don't doubt that you sent it, I just didn't get it.
Yeah, no, that's completely fine. And there were some large files, so I hope those did come through. There we go.
I got it. I got it yesterday, yes.
So, yeah, so a couple of updates on the national level statistics, because we've talked about those in the past, and that's been in an earlier presentation. Outdoor recreation participation continued to grow in 2021. This is data through the end of 21, not 22, with 164.2 million people participating in outdoor recreation. Nationally, by categories, I looked at the categories of BMX, mountain biking, and bicycling. They did grow significantly in 2020. They did sort of calm down, and in fact, were a little negative in 2021, but they still show positive increases over a 2-year average and a 5-year average. The participation levels, I sent a snippet of one of those tables that breaks out what that participation looks like. BMX participation over the last 5 years has went up 4.5%. Mountain biking has went up 0.2%. So it had a pretty significant jump in 2020, but it's leveled off and came back down slightly. In fact, it went down 3.4% from 20 to 21. Then, but the total over 2 years is a 0.8% increase. The total over the 5-year average is a 0.2% increase. And then bicycling in general, which is just all bicycling, there's a 2.3% increase. I did also send you a link where you can download and view the Indiana Recreation Participation Study. There's a lot of good data in there. It's a huge report, but I did want to call your attention to on page 14 in the report. This shows some of the outdoor participation activities broken down, and they did note that there's a lot of talk about mountain biking in the Indiana report, and one of the things they pointed out is that when they include cycling, it is down in the top 10 most used outdoor activities. But when they include mountain biking with all biking, it jumps up to the 4th highest outdoor activity, and there's roughly an 11.2 participation rate in all biking. But again, not broken out with just into the granular detail of mountain biking like I had hoped it would be, but some good data there. I'd also call your attention, page 83 of the report talks about trends, and a lot of the trends that are discussed on that page are about mountain biking. And one of the quotes I pulled out of there to share with you is that it says that mountain biking continues to grow in popularity and appears to be increasingly diverse. This can be gathered by Indiana now having a National Interscholastic Cycling Association League, an organization for youth mountain bike development and competition, that's participation from around the state, as well as from an increase in mountain bike skills clinics and sessions, including many targeted specifically to Indiana women and urban youth. So again, there's some of those reports there you can see. Again, not the data I was hoping to be able to break it down to that granular level of mountain biking specific to Indiana. But there are a couple of reports that you should have in your inbox. And if you aren't able to find those, let me know.
I sent them to him.
I'll send if they're not coming through for some reason, like I said, I'll send an
Yeah,
update
if
and we can find a different way.
add him to the group, yeah. He was-
I was able to, John was able to help me with Brett's email,
Oh,
so
okay.
I did try. Hopefully it went through. But, yeah, so that's what I have for you tonight. Any other questions or?
Just a couple, and it could have been brought up before, I just don't remember. This is sort of being pushed by the city, and is that cost of, you talked about the guy that has to upkeep it, is that going to be covered by the Parks Board budget, or is that coming out of the city budget since the city's doing most of the funding for this?
That's a good question, and I'm not real clear on how all park activities are funded versus park levy, general fund allocations. I'd have to defer to John on that. The one thing I can say is that, and I met with the new executive director of the CVB on Monday, just to make sure everything was still in order, and it is, of course, and one of the things that we've talked about, also discussed with her, that she supports, is instead of taking that money and putting it into the construction of the park, putting that money into the operation of the park. It is $100,000, and was awarded on over a 5-year time period, so $20,000 a year. So I think that's one thing we could do to help defray that initial cost, is there would be an additional $20,000 that's not coming out of park levy or city, any city funds at that point. And the CVB also said they'd be willing to talk about what other ways they can participate in the project going forward. And I think, I guess that brings up a point I wanted to make or offer to you guys. I know there's been some concern, some issues, some really concerns that, is this the right decision for the park system? Is this the right decision for John and his staff? Is this the right decision for the board? I understand those concerns. So, as I said, we're working on that first project to cap off the landfill and perfect that, and we're still working through the item approvals. We have not put RFPs out on the street for the construction of the bike park amenities. So while we have some time here, that's what I'd really like, is from input from you. If there are concerns, if there is consternation, if there is discomfort with these decisions, there's time that we can work through those things and make sure that we've got a project that we can all support. At least I hope there is a project we can all support. But that's what I'd like to do over the next few months while we're working through these final approvals, is to see what we need to do to make sure that everybody's concerns are addressed.
Okay, so I've followed up, I've asked around. I would say, unfortunately, probably the best thing people like about mountain biking, from the ones I know personally that do the trail riding,
Sure.
They love it right now. They love it because they're empty and they don't have to wait on anybody going around them. And that, to me, seems like a bad sign for putting a bike park in. So, not to put it down, but in terms of getting the interest for it, because I know a trail-ready bike, I've talked to these people, they said a trail-ready bike has some cost to it, and you can't just go to Walmart, grab a regular bike, and hop on that trail. So we're talking about people that can, A, afford or at least have the interest enough to go out there and save the money to afford a bike like this to put into it. How are we looking to build the interest to make this a viable local interest, or at least a viable larger interest to bring people from out of city into it?
And I think, if we were trying to depend on ridership just from the city, I think that is a concern. I think we are looking at, we've been working with the Hoosier Mountain Bike Association, with NICA, looking at interest statewide, looking at interest in Indianapolis. There's not a trail on the northwest side of Indianapolis, so Hoosier Mountain Bike Association is really interested in being involved with the project and trying to promote the project, as is the largest bike shop in the city, Bicycle Garage. So I've not personally had that experience where there's nobody in the parks. It's probably just the time of day you go, but I won't discount that people have those experiences. I'm sure they do. So I think that's something that we need to think about. And you're right, demographically, I would say the cross-country trail that we're going to first build is a novice intermediate level trail. So it is not something you need to have a trail-rided $4,000 mountain bike to ride. It is something you can ride with your kids on their BMX bikes or whatever bike that you bought from Walmart. So it's not so extreme that you have to go out there. But I would also say that demographically, the average mountain biker in the state of Indiana or in the Midwest, looks like me. They're mid-40s. They have a fair amount of disposable income. They spent, I think the average is somewhere around $2,000 on a bicycle. That's pretty much the average mountain biker in the state of Indiana. But again, I think the trail will be designed in such a way that you can go out and ride it with your kids on any bike you have. Maybe not a 10-speed road bike like you might be familiar with, but everything from a BMX bike to a beach cruiser to a Walmart brand mountain bike, I think will fare just fine out there.
We plan on selling it with that method, because everybody I've talked to don't get that. I mean, that sounds great. That really does. Sounds like a great thing to go out and have fun with and do on, but that's not the message that I'm just talking around town, they're thinking, what they see in the YouTube videos, the jumping off ramps, the going after.
Yeah, and I think that's the danger, right? Is when you say mountain biking, people think Red Bull racing. People see the YouTube videos and the TikTok videos of people doing crazy stuff. We're not building that type of stuff here. This is very much a family-friendly park, and maybe that's something we need to think about, is how do we get that brand and that market better out to people so they understand what we're talking about, that we're not talking about something, we're not talking about guys doing backflips off of cliffs, we're talking about families riding down basically an off-road trail, not necessarily not smooth like you would be riding down the Big Four trail, but on a natural surface trail.
Right.
But definitely always can do more education as we get out there.
I think, of course, this has been going on for some time, but I think that's a good point to bring up, because I think we talked about that a lot initially, way back when you first started, that it would be something that people locally could go out on the initial trails and ride.
Yeah.
Another thing I was going to ask, we talked about this, would this be something that the cross-country team is still going to be able
Yeah.
to compete on from the high school?
Yeah, actually, and in fact, especially for this first phase, there's a lot more open space than what we had originally planned. So that open space that will be turf grass, that I think lends itself to putting on those types of events. But yes, we've talked with the athletic director's office and the cross-country coaches at the high school and middle school. They're both very interested in hosting their events out there. If you know a lot about our cross-country teams, I think they host 1 or 2 home events a year because they really don't have a good course to run on. So they were pretty excited when we threw out that idea that they could be running along these mountain bike trails and hosting events out there. So I think that's an opportunity for us to get people out there, to get more people involved with the park. And the park is also, I should have mentioned this earlier, it's not just for people that are on bikes. You could go out there and do trail running. You could go out there and do hiking. You can go out there and walk on the trails as well. What we typically do is on mountain bike trails, they'll ask that pedestrians go one direction and bicycles go the other, so that there's good visibility as you're going along the trail. And again, cross-country, novice level trail through the prairie grass, there's going to be good visibility. You're not going to be in the trees with this initial phase and not see someone as you're coming around a corner. So we think that's an opportunity for lots of recreation opportunities, lots of sports opportunities, not just on the cycling side. And the other thing on operational, we've had really good conversations with the Hoosier Mountain Bike Association. They maintain the majority of the trails in the state of Indiana for places like the state parks, for places like the Indy Parks Foundation, the board that runs all the parks in Indianapolis. So there's an opportunity there that we could further discuss. And you mentioned earlier, is the city willing to fund this out of a different source than usual? Again, I can't speak for the mayor or city council, but I think that's a valid conversation that we could have, and we're getting ready to go into budget season and see what we could do there. But there is partnerships where that could, I would never say it would minimize or would eliminate park staff being out there, but it could significantly reduce it if there was this volunteer relationship with the Hoosier Mountain Bike Association to help maintain the trails and police the trails and watch the trails for us. So, lots of opportunities. That's why I want to understand, where do you want me to go for here? What are those key points that you feel we've glossed over or haven't answered yet? Whether that's how we market and brand, or how we maintain, how we budget for operations.
From my perspective, I've been a fan from the beginning simply because I really believe that it's important for our community to establish amenities that attract people to come here to visit, but also to keep our people here, that they don't have to go somewhere else always to enjoy things like that.
Yeah.
So I love all that. One of the things I think I've brought up before during one of our meetings where you've shared is that I would like to hear a little bit more about the thoughts, and maybe it's premature to do this yet, but at some point in time, about the plan for keeping people safe while they're there. You know, I think, you know, there may be no one there. I show up with 3 or 4 of my grandkids, you know, am I going to feel safe doing that with them? You
Yeah.
know? It's just because we're kind of remote in a situation like that. And we've talked here as a board sometimes about people coming forward with concerns about things that have happened, maybe even at Memorial Park. Well, that's in a very busy, you know, highly
Yeah.
populated area. So I just think we need to be proactive in
Yeah.
making sure we're thinking through the possibilities of making sure that people want to be there and come back there because they felt
Safe. Absolutely. Yeah, people need to feel safe in our park systems. That's always always should be at the top of our concern list, right? Yeah, I agree.
I'm not saying it's a concern, but something that, and you brought up, that we need to look into is the maintenance and operations of the park, or of the bike park, which is something we need to dive into and get with park staff, and just so they're comfortable. And I have a couple ideas of maybe some ways that we could take some things off the park and maybe free up a little bit of their time. But yeah, my big thing, like I said, I'm not concerned because you keep bringing it up, which makes me feel good about it, but I want us really to be prepared for what we're entering into, and that the park staff is comfortable.
Yeah. Very good.
Thanks for providing the update.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's really
that was-
helpful.
That was interesting.
I'll be back next month with more information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just to answer Mr. Craig's question about the funding, yes, we have a park levy, and that's what that's what our budget is. Any other extra projects, just like a lot of them, we either float a bond approved by the council or come from the general fund or from somewhere. We ask for it, though, for our projects. That would probably be how we'd have to fund anything that we go here. We have several ongoing now where we have American Rescue Plan money, the fishing pier, disc golf, and the restroom at the trailhead. So those are just some of the ideas. That help you? That answer it? Okay. Another piece of old business, our Parks Master Plan. Got an approval on the 24th from DNR. I'll just read a quick little bit of it. Dear Lori Gross and Lebanon Park Board, the DNR Division of State Parks Planning staff has reviewed the final draft of the 23 to 2028 Lebanon 5-year Parks and Recreation Master Plan. The plan meets the Department of National Resources requirements for local parks and recreation master plans. This letter certifies that your community is eligible to apply for Land and Water Conservation Fund grants through this office in 2023 grant year. A new plan will be due by November 15th of 2028, at which time your current LWCF grant application eligibility will expire. And there again, there's people that I have contacted, our grant section chief from DNR, and they have a staff that's available. So we have looked into different grants there. That's another funding process that we can look at. And we've used a few grants on several projects, the dog park and things like that. But finally got that done. Took about two years, but with the growth that we have, I think we covered our basis, and everybody's input and the different groups that we have are as far as that's done. Deb did a nice job on it, and I appreciate everybody's help and the public's input and all the groups that we had in. And that's all I had there.
Just going to continue with the director's report then?
Sure will, thank you. Their baseball game going on right now, they're getting beat by North Montgomery, unfortunately. Shirley, you're probably interested in that. Daggone it, we dropped the ball and kicked it around a little bit. Anyway, the baseball field, our scoreboard is repaired, had something go out on it. It's been serviced and good to go. The bullpens, we added a conditioner and edged everything. It looks really nice out there. Got all kinds of compliments. Also took care of the weeds, did a weed control, and we retreated it again with fertilizer. Security cameras, our internal wiring, there was some moisture problems, so we got those corrected, and those are covered now inside the new light poles that we have. Seashore Water Park, anybody been by, you can see there's water in the pool, so we'll be testing it next week, but it's really nice to see all the water going in there. Both pool vessels were painted with 3 coats of paint, the silica sand applied to painted surface. That keeps the slip proof there. As far as that, they did a very nice job, and that's good for another 3 to 5 years. Concrete and tile repairs were completed on the lazy river prior to that, and the runout slide. Painting of the slides, we had to stop them due to the weather. We had all those nasty winds, and they agreed to come back. That is warranty work from 2 years ago that wasn't pleased with the way it was peeling and the looks of it. The company's very reputable, said they'd be out, and they came out as promised this spring. Unfortunately, they didn't beat the people that were painting the vessels, and we got to get water in it. So they will be back out this fall and take care of that. I'm really glad that they are good to their word. The grounds, we had a couple trees at Memorial Park, removed stumps, ground them dirt and strawed, and seeded. Weed control was applied to all the property at Memorial Park. Sterile applied along the fence rows in places that are tough to take care of. Memorial Park bench was added, one of those nice benches in memory. Mulching has started, just started that today. Starting out on 39, we'll move on around the park. Playground, the merry-go-round. You remember how loose that was? I don't know if anybody's been out there. Our maintenance, Billy Smith, basically took care of it today. A bolt finally snapped, and we repaired it. Billy did, put a new bolt in it, and found another piece to tighten. It wasn't ever tightened, so it is solid. Best it's ever been, even when they installed it. So hopefully Billy won't leave, the superintendent won't leave to go to be a playground installer anymore. He isn't even listening. Anyway, weed control applied throughout Memorial Park, sterile applied in areas. Memorial, as I said, that Memorial bench, mulching has started. Now let's go to playground. That's where I was, lost my place. Graffiti, we have to remove it quite often with the kids out there, so that's almost every other day. All the playgrounds have been inspected, and few repairs have been made. At Abner Longley, again, we had a couple trees that removed, stumps, ground, dirt, straw, those places, seeded. Weed control applied, sterile applied in areas. The softball diamond, we put brick dust installed on the softball field. Again, we also, the playground was inspected and made a few corrections there on them. New signage installed, no motorized vehicles. We have people driving on the trails and throughout, so we got those up. And if that won't work, we'll put some kind of barricades across. Hopefully, we don't have to do that. Press box platform, we removed it. That'll be replaced as soon as we get time to get to that. Graffiti, again, removed at the playground. Splash pad has been power washed. They'll probably do another power washing. Bushes trimmed, everything cleaned up there, so that will start up earlier than Memorial Day, depending on weather, if it gets warm. We're actually going to fire it up Monday, along with all our pools, because we'll have water in them. Once we do that, then we have to get a treatment approved by the state. And once the state inspection comes back, and we have to have 2 clear tests, so it's safe for everybody. Once that's done, then we'll open those up, and I'll put a date on our webpage and also on Facebook of when the splash pad will open. Pond has been treated also. The lifts going to Reese Park, the lift station work is still in progress. We applied a weed control out there. It's very active, so please be mindful when you're driving in that area. There are a lot of families out there and just don't want any bad things to happen, so be mindful, all the kids. Rogers Park, we just treated it with weed control out there. The Kitty Park, again, weed control applied, sterile applied. Hot Pond, let me see, a weed control applied, sterile applied, and a new grill. We're going to replace the grills out there. We finally got those in, so those will be installed possibly this week. Ruth Berkshire Arboretum, dirt work is about complete. We had some piles of dirt where it was stored. We've leveled those out. We'll follow with some seed and straw, trying to get some of the issues that we have with standing water, so we'll see how we can do with that. Hopefully this will help. I had 3 trees that were down. We'll remove those. I think we have another couple there. There's several that we'll have to remove, and I will go to the Ruth Berkshire Trust to see if they can help us with replacing some of those trees. Big Four Trail. Most of the existing trail south of Salmon Plant Road has been milled. Our first progress meeting will be scheduled for Friday, so I'll have better updates and word on that. Doing a nice job. They did have, I don't know if you got the calls, I know I did, on some dust control driving down 450. A lot of loads of dirt or a trail going out on the millings. They've addressed that. Ruth Riley talked to them, and they were right on top of it and communicated. So those people have been taken care of. They're going to put something, obviously with the rains we had, that helped out a lot too. But the milling should be done, but we want to be mindful of our neighbors, that's for sure. Weed control and sterilant applied to the grassy areas out there. Downtown, cleaning, we clean that downtown about 3 times a week, pick up trash, cigarette butts, what have you, and then remove the trash cans down there. We take care of all the trash. Just trying to update you on what we do. We did some tree work down there too. We're preparing right now for Saturday's event, Savor Lebanon. I think that is going on Saturday. It should be a nice event. There again, we help out with that. I think we'll be doing a few flower plantings. We'll put some pansies in right now. Shirley, does that have your approval? Pansies right now?
What, pansies?
Yes, that's about the only thing we can put down right now. So we're going to try and beautify it a little bit prior to our annual planting that we do after Mother's Day. Gene Haas Building, we've trimmed all the plants, plant material, all the beds that we took care of out there, mulched, replaced a few plants and installed all the mulch. And also weed control and sterilant has been applied out there, which is an ongoing thing. Programs and events. If anybody went by the park today, you saw all kinds of vehicles. It was a really nice event. The Lebanon Community School Corporation came out. Very nice. They had all the kindergartners from all the school system out, and they got to come. They had different stations from bucket trucks to fire trucks to police vehicles, and they got to come out and touch. And it was really good to get them outside in nature. They loved our new playground. They were all over it. 250 kindergartners. It's nice, though. That's what our park's about. Obviously, with school winding down at the end of the month, we'll have a bunch of kids coming out on a daily, those last celebrations before they go on to their next grade level, and we love it. We will be hosting our princess party in her cabin this Sunday, May 7th, from 11 to 2. The cost is $5 per child, and guests can enjoy cookies and punch, a craft, and visiting with the sleeping princess and Rapunzel. So I hope everybody can get out. I hope the weather holds. Registration for our summer swim lessons is now open. We'll hold a 10-day session in June and another in July. You can check out our website for exact dates, and the cost is $50 per session. That means 10 classes, $50, about $5 a class, which is very, very reasonable. Spots are filling up fast, unbelievable. We came in Monday and it had just opened up. A lot of people were hitting at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning signing up those swim lessons, which I think's great. I just wish we had more time available to do swim lessons because it's so important. We do a nice job too. Our summer pickleball tournament, Serving Up Sparks, will take place this year on Friday, June 30th, and will be held under the lights. This is a co-ed doubles tournament, and the costs are $40 per team. Visit our website for further information and to register, or give our office a call. Registration opens this Friday. We recently announced information about a free concert in the park with band Chamberlain. This will take place on Saturday, May 27th in Memorial Park, starting at 7 p.m. Be sure to follow us on social media for more information closer to the time. And we just had this last Saturday again, Thomas certified the last of our lifeguards. He's done an outstanding job, saved us quite a bit of money too, but we have 17 new lifeguards that are on, and they did a real nice job. But again, hats off to the office staff and Thomas for stepping up and doing that. And that's my report. Any questions?
Any questions from the board for John?
The follow-up,
Follow-up.
same question as every month.
Excuse me?
That sign,
That sign.
that Witham sign out at the football fields?
Oh, I don't think we've got that.
Day after the last meeting.
Yes.
Right, that's down?
Yeah, there you go.
The other one, had a Reese Park personal interest on this one. They seeded and grassed that mound. I'm assuming that thing's there for the long haul. They've gone ahead and polished that up nicely.
Oh, in the very back?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's ongoing until the end of the year, and then they'll seed it and we'll touch it up too. Just like that front, you know how it sank? We'll probably have to deal with that next spring too. I mean, it settles, you get a little dip, and I think we're allowed to do that. There again, I'll have to check with the Corps of Army Engineers to find out about that.
I know we've talked about it as a club. The water, do we have a timeline on when water's going to be run?
Soon. The water department, I talked to the utilities, they are tied up by a Grant Street. They have several projects going on. That is on their list, and we'll do quite a bit of the work, but we need their help to start out and do the tie-in on that. But
Soon's
yeah.
relative? What do you, I mean, what's your soon?
Oh, I'm hoping in the next 3 weeks or so is what, they really didn't give me a timeline, but they're very good about helping us out, and I don't want to push them too hard, because if I do, then they'll step back, but, yeah. Also, another thing I failed to mention, our water park is having a new piece of equipment installed in the pump house. This is the first time in Indiana, so I had to go through Homeland Security, Indiana Health Department, and our local health department. Got all their approvals. It's to break down and so we won't be spending as much money on chlorine and acid. A little environmental type of thing, but you always have to, any kind of adjustments that you make to pump houses, you have to go through Homeland Security and the state. So I got all those approval. That'll be installed at the end of this month before we open. No cost to us, since it is the first in Indiana. They're going to show us the cost savings. Will kind of be their test pilot for the program, and if we don't want it, they'll come and uninstall it, and there won't be any charge, or we'll look at it purchasing it if we do have that cost savings. So I thought that was pretty cool that we went forward with that. And that's, any other questions?
Okay, no more questions for John?
All righty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if everybody's had a chance to review the claims, I'd entertain a motion, we pay the claims.
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, if there's no other questions from the board, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
That we adjourn.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you for joining us this evening.